It's up to you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So tonight, inshallah, we started a section last week which was ihtiram al-ulama, and we didn't finish it, and we just started real brief. And tonight, inshallah, we're going to complete that section. In the next section, inshallah, there's probably about 5 more classes left before we finish. Hopefully we'll be finished before the Eid, and then we start something fresh after the Eid, inshallah. So this section, as the Musannif, Hafidhullah, it says, ihtiram al-ulama. Now, we say, and the term we use for a scholar is what? Sheikh. No difference in that. What we need to understand is that all of the scholars of Islam are not on the same level. Just like everybody's iman is not on the same level. That the scholars of Islam, all of them are not on the same level. Some scholars are 90 years old, and then some sheikhs, they might be 45, 50 years old, and everything in between. So they're not the same, even though when you read their name, it'll say the same word in front of it, sheikh. So in this section, respecting, what's another name for the scholars? Yes. The imams, okay. The ulama in English. Teachers? No. When people were specifically referring to the scholars, right? What are the terms that we use in English? Even though sheikh is an Arabic word, right? What else? Alim is Arabic, huh? People of knowledge. The people of knowledge. The people of knowledge, which are the ulama, it's different, right? Are on different levels. And which means that, and I'm just using numbers for example. The numbers is just for example. A scholar that's 50 is not like a scholar that's 80. Right? Generally, I'm not saying who's more knowledgeable. I'm saying generally, more than likely, the scholar that's 80 is one word that he's definitely is above the 50-year-old in, and that's what. Yeah, for sure, age. Sorry. All right, age, which means experience, which means that the scholar that's 80, he's been being asked those questions for 30 years. Same questions. You know, Ramadan, every Ramadan class, it's the same questions from last year. Even yourself, when it comes to Zakat al-Fitr, I got the same question from last time. Man, we did this on last year, every year. So imagine the scholar, the sheikh, he's getting the same questions every year for 30 years. He's 30 years older than the scholar that's 50 years old or 45 or 40, right? So he definitely has way more experience, right? Which in general, it's assumed that he has more knowledge, right? That doesn't mean that the one who doesn't have as much experience as him is not necessarily knowledgeable. They're just not the same, right? They're not on the same level. This section is for all of the people of knowledge. People who have more knowledge than us, the way we deal with them is with a specific type manners. And that's why the narration from last week that we're going to go through again real quick, it shows really and I'm gonna use the word he used, some things are audacious. I wouldn't do that I'm not gonna do that in front of him just out of respect, right? It's really on that level, out of respect. Not that something is necessarily haram to do, but a lot of these things are out of respect for what? Huh? For the sheikh, for the teacher, and out of respect for the knowledge that he's carrying, which is knowledge of deen, right? So, ihtiram al-ulama, respect for the people of knowledge. The person who has more knowledge than you deserves a level of respect just for the fact that they have more knowledge than you. If you get in a jam, Islamically, you're going to have to go to that person, right? You might not want to go to him and ask a question. So you're going to do what? I'm going to go around him and go to somebody else. And that person might direct you right back to the same person you didn't want to go to. And it's not because of who he or she is, but it's what they carrying. The knowledge that they have that's going to help a person worship Allah better. So being though that's the case, and being though the categories in Islam of people generally are Ahl al-Ilm, the people of knowledge, the ulama, then you have the Tulab al-Ilm, the people who study with the scholars, and then you have this the general Muslim. They're not a student of knowledge, and they're not scholars, right? And those are basically the layers of people you have when it comes to Islamic knowledge, right? Most people are general regular Muslims minding their business trying to worship Allah, right? And that's nothing wrong with that. And then there's another group of people who are the Tulab al-Ilm, and that group of people is a lot smaller than the first group, numbers-wise, right? Numbers-wise. And then you have the people of knowledge, and the numbers may be even smaller. Tayyib. That small number of people, the people of knowledge, is not restricted to a country, is not restricted to a color, is not restricted to what language they speak. It all goes back to what? Ilm, knowledge. And that's why when you go to some countries, what we do, we compare every sheikh, every person of knowledge, we compare them to the biggest scholar there is. And when you do that, that means he or she really has nothing, right? Everybody with me? So I'm just saying, for example, we'll take a sheikh in whatever country he's in, and the person's going to say, well, he's not a bin Baz, rahimahullah. Nobody said he was a bin Baz. But the people he's talking to, they don't know anything, right? Therefore, it's not talking, as the scholars will say, in his area, his or her area where he's from or where she's from, she or he, that's who they refer to for knowledge. That's their ahlul ilm, which doesn't mean that they're the most knowledgeable anything. Either way, in any case, the people of knowledge are to be respected. So the first one that we did last week, after he mentioned that the scholars of Islam, the people of knowledge, are the inheritors of the prophets, that they received something and they took something from the prophets that the prophets left behind, which is not, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it's not money, right? It's not money that they left, but they left knowledge. Tayyib. So he says also, min mu'taqid ahl sunnah wal jama'ah, from the belief of ahl sunnah wal jama'ah, is that athana alayhim wa ijlalihim, that we praise the scholars, praise them, give them their, as we say in our terms, give them what? Give them their flowers. There you go. Respect. Respect. I was about to say something older, but I'll give them their props a little older. That's older. Or give them their flowers, right? Out of respect for what they carry, and you have to give them the respect that they deserve. Tayyib. And that respect can look different depending on where you are, but there's some things that are general. So the first one we read last week was the statement of Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah. He says, "Ulama as-salaf min as-sabiqeen wa tabi'een wa min ba'dahum من أهل الخير والأثر وأهل الفقه والنظر لا يذكرون إلا بالجميل. Or we might not have mentioned this one. He said the people, the scholars of the Salaf, going all the way back, of course, including the Sahaba and the Tabi'een and all of the scholars of Islam and all of the people of good, the khair, and the people of fiqh and the scholars, all of them, he said, they are not to be mentioned. Do not mention them except that you have something good to say. Only mention if you got something good to say. Because the question is now, are people of knowledge, I want to use people of knowledge, people who have knowledge of Islam, are they perfect people, meaning they don't sin and make mistakes? They could sin and make mistakes. So they're not perfect. But when they make a mistake, which they will, they're not perfect, it may be noticeable to people and the law might cover it. Right? Just like all of us. He said they're not to be only mention them with something good to say. And this is based on a statement that's coming later. Tayyib. The second point was the one we read last week, which was the wasf. It says الرفيع من الاحترام العلماء. قال الرفيع بن سليمان رحمه الله. His name is الرفيع ibn Sulaiman. He said, والله ما اشترطت أن أشرب الماء والشافعي ينظر إلي هيبة له. He said, I wouldn't have the audacity, I wouldn't dare drink water while Imam Shafi'i was looking at me. Why? What's reverence mean? Maybe sit down to the kids.
I don't want to say worship, but it's not idolizing a person, but it's actually having awe for the amount of knowledge that they're carrying. So you feel real shy.
You feel shy in front of them to even make a move. Let me not move too much, man. Shake sitting there. What's that about, y'all? The basic principles of modesty. You know how sometimes, for real, if a cop walk up on your car at nighttime, you don't even want to move. If a cop, for us, I don't know about for everybody else. If a cop walk up on the side, like you get pulled over, I don't know what you do. I roll all the windows down, turn all the inside lights on. I turn everything, lights on, windows down, right? And you don't even want to move. Why not? You recognize his authority, and at the end of the day, you might get shot. But you recognize the authority, and you recognize you are in a compromising position. Somebody's in authority around you. Let me chill. Let me not do too much moving around. And there's other places where we go, and we do the same thing, right? Court. We go to court. You don't even want to move. Standing with your arms folded. You be sweating for the judge to come out and tell you you got to do how many years, or you got to pay this much money, right? That type of feeling is the same thing when it comes to respecting the people of knowledge. We'll do all of that for them, and then when the person of knowledge comes around, we act like they don't even exist. Like they're not carrying the information we know. If we get in a jam right now, we're going to need him or her to answer a question and guide us on what we're supposed to do as Muslims, right? And that's what that's about. Like he said, it's not about that we worshiping those scholars. Scholars are not prophets, and they're not to be worshiped. But they are to be respected. They are to be respected. So he said, I wouldn't dare drink water while Imam Shafi'i was looking at me. Haybatan lahu. Out of respect for his position. Tayyib. This next one says, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said he had a brother that used to highly respect him. Now, let's just talk about the judge, right? The judge is a human. Everybody who comes in that courtroom, they show the utmost respect for the judge, right? Who are the only people who might not deal with the judge like that? Maybe other judges, but they probably, that's a good one. Maybe other judges, but the other judges still gonna respect them. Huh? Who? The criminal, if they say stand up out of honor of the judge, he gonna stand up. Who's the only people that might not go, that might lower, not to respect them, disrespect them, but they might not respond like everybody else? The people in there? Their family. Usually the family is a little more relaxed with the person, right? Right? He's still a judge. He's still a judge. He's a judge. Wherever he goes, he's a judge. His family knows he's a judge, but they're a little more relaxed with him than the rest of the people. Tayyib, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he had a brother, which his brother would be like, of course, his family, which means generally they're a little more relaxed. It says, قال البزار رحمه الله, Al-Bazzar said, ما رأيت أحدا كان أشد تعظيما للشيخ من أخيه. He said, I didn't see anybody that was more respectful to Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah than his own brother. Right? And you know how we do. If that's your brother, yeah, that's my, still, even if he's younger than you, older, that's my brother, so I ain't got to do all that. Y'all did. Yeah, to y'all, he's this, but to me, this is him. But out of respect for the knowledge, he said, I didn't see anybody more respectful to him than his own brother. He says, وَكَانَ يَجْلِسْ بِحَضْرَتِهِ كَأَنَّ عَلَى رَأْسِهِ الطَّيْرِ. He said when his brother used to go, if his brother was sitting there and Shaykh al-Islam was also there in the same room, in his presence, he said his brother would sit so still, he wouldn't move, like he had a bird on his head. If a bird lands on something, the slightest movement is going to make the bird move and fly off, right? That's how they described him. That's how still he was sitting, wouldn't move as if Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah was. This is his own brother, right? This is what they noticed about him. So they said his own brother used to respect him as if he was the leader of the country or something, like he was the sultan. That's how his own brother respected him. And they said, we were amazed to see this because the aada, generally, as he says, min al-urf wal-aada and ahl al-rajul, the general, the custom of the people is the people of the judge. They don't really hold them like that. They don't behave like him around that. Generally, they let their guard down and everything. He says, so they said to him, that's what they said to his brother, نحن نراك مع الشيخ كتلميذ مبالغ في احتشابه واحترامه. He said, we notice you behave with Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah like you're one of his students. And you from his family, generally everybody from the family is like a little more relaxed. فيقول, he said, إني أرى منه أشياء لا يراها غيري أوجبت علي أن أكون معه كما ترون. He said, yeah, but I've seen him do things that none of y'all seen, nobody else saw him do. And based on that, I have to treat him like this. I have to treat him like this. He's not treating him like that because that's his brother. He's treating him like that because of what? The knowledge and the action. That demands respect. According to the Islamic tradition, not according to our tradition. What we do is we'll disrespect anybody. And we think that's cool. If everybody is respecting the person, we think we have to be the one to show everybody that I don't have to respect them. Right? We want to be the one to show, I'm going to show you everybody doesn't respect them. So I'll do something intentionally to show everybody, okay, I'm not respecting them. Even though he or she deserves it and everybody's giving them their due just, I want to be the one to say no, which is not proper Islamic manners. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. We done flipped it. Somebody ignorant who not deaning, bad reputation, known as a killer, shooter, all they come in the room, everybody get quiet and focus on them. Right? Person of knowledge come in the room, people don't even know who he is or who she is. Somebody with a bad rep, terrible rep, not deaning, no none of that, they die, everybody up in arms. Scholar die, nobody even, who's that? Where's he from? I never heard of him. So you're right, it's been flipped. May Allah make us better. He said in the next point, he says, يجب على المسلم أن يحذر من الوقيعة في أعراض العلماء. He said a Muslim, it's obligatory to be careful and cautious when it comes to the reputation, and sometimes we say the honor of the people of knowledge. But what does the reputation of honor mean? What does that mean? The honor of Ahl al-Ilm. Yes. Don't slander. Meaning we're not supposed to be talking bad about them. Like he said in the first point, they should only be mentioned with good, even though they're not perfect. We're not saying they're perfect. Right? Of course, we're not supposed to be backbiting anybody anyway, just as Muslims in general, let alone Ahl al-Ilm, the people of knowledge who are carrying the knowledge of the Sharia. And then he said, قال الحافظ أبو القاسم ابن عساكر رحمه الله. And this is a famous statement, لحوم العلماء رحمة الله عليهم مسمومة. He said, and this is a mentality. Anybody into reptiles like that? Huh? Reptiles? You know, some of them are poisonous. So when it comes to those poisonous ones, what does everybody do? Stay away. Stay far away. They don't want no parts of that. Right? And this is the mentality of the Salaf when it comes to respecting the scholars, the mentality. He said, the flesh of the scholars, may Allah have mercy on them, is poisonous. Meaning what?
It's
Off limits. As far as what?
As far as defaming them, like you said, they're not perfect, they make mistakes and they're human. Okay, but those things are taken into consideration, whereas you have to follow them in that because you find that that's wrong, but you still don't go in that realm of disrespecting them.
Don't disrespect them.
Touching their honor.
Don't. What is it? Good. What does it mean to? What is it? Don't talk bad about them. But people use the word a lot. Throwing shade. Yeah, definitely. How you throwing shade on a scholar of Islam? If we're using our terms, how do we think we have the audacity bad about a person of ilm carrying knowledge of Sharia? And the problem is, like you said, a lot of us don't respect knowledge, and a lot of us don't respect the process it takes to gain the knowledge. A lot of us don't know the process. And that's why part of the reason we're doing that series about my life as a student of knowledge. Hopefully, as a community, we could say, okay, what's the process or the program we did with Abdul Summit, Allah Yahfadhu, about memorizing the Quran. People need to know the process. What does it take to memorize the Quran? That the Salaf said you couldn't come sit in the class if you didn't memorize the Quran first. But what does that take to do it? Dedication. But most people haven't seen it done, haven't seen the process. They've never saw a person go to class day after day, 2 years, 3 years, 5 days a week, with review, with memorizing, getting it wrong, getting it corrected. Most of us haven't seen that up close. So it's easy to well, that's all right. Like, it's okay. It's easy to brush it off until you see it up close, and then you can really step back and say, yo, I respect that. I'm sorry, Sheikh.
Two parts. Real quick. One, do you think it's because in order to give something importance, you got to know what that thing is?
No doubt.
So if you don't know what, usually when I say two parts, because if you don't know what knowledge is Islamic, because it's different than secular. Because the way we grew up, we grew up on the bare minimum.
Sorry.
You see what I'm saying? In most
Bare minimum.
households, as long as you did your homework,
You did the bare minimum.
as long as you did your homework, it was fine.
As long as you did your bare minimum homework to get through school, you got bare minimum grades, and you're satisfied with that.
Yeah, as long as you're not failing.
Yeah, as long as you're not failing.
So I'm saying, but like Islamically, right? Okay, secularly, general, you can kind of maneuver without knowledge, you know what I mean? But Islamically, there's no way of maneuvering unless you have it.
No doubt. And Islamically, that's not, we're not people who shoot for the bare minimum Islamically. So in that case, the mentality is that they are off limits. Off limits. Had we seen, if we were able to see what it takes to memorize Allah's book, you will respect the Hafiz of the Quran a little more. It's not just something decent to do. You have a lot more respect. Had you seen what it takes to learn and get wrong and go back and forth and over, I think people would have a little more respect. But the fact that a lot of us did not see that, a lot of us don't really know how important it is and respect the process. No doubt. No doubt. A person, like he said, a person might have been diagnosed with ADHD. All type, and they still go on and benefit, memorize the Quran and learn. But you got to see the process. You have to see it. What happened? How do you do that? Most of us, you got to go to Quran class. We don't know what that looked like because most of us probably haven't sat in a Quran class or a Quran program. So it just sounds like a class. But if you see the process, it'll build a little more respect. Wallahu alam. Tayyib, he says the next point. He says, "Min akthar min al-waqi'a fil ulama faqad waqa'a fi dhanbin 'azim." Whoever keeps bringing up the mistakes of a scholar, of a person of knowledge, then they have committed a serious sin. He says, قال الطحاوي رحمه الله ومن ذكرهم بسوء فهو على غير السبيل. Whoever mentions the scholars or people of knowledge in a bad light, they're not on the right path. That's not something that we're supposed to be doing. That doesn't mean they're perfect. When is it time to mention the mistake of a scholar? Huh? Well, let me rephrase the question. When is it time to possibly mention a mistake of a scholar in public? Why would I have to do that? Of course, but why would I have to say that even? Why would I even have to bring that up? How? I'm need specifics. If it affects the people, how?
They taking a mistake. He might have said something for the 3 rakats. He meant to say 2.
Right. A scholar, right. It affects the mistake. A scholar made a mistake, and now people are about to follow the mistake. People about to follow the mistake that the scholar made. Okay, now we had to, okay, the sheikh made a mistake in this case. That doesn't mean I'm more knowledgeable than him. It doesn't mean I'm trying to say I'm more knowledgeable than him, but that's that part, as the ulama say, the other ulama say, no scholar is to be followed in the mistake that he or she makes. We don't follow him in the mistake.
Also, in another case, sometimes when the scholar makes a mistake, they make a mistake because, especially the earlier scholars, they make a mistake because that particular knowledge may not have reached them.
Sah, our problem is, Sheikh, we don't care about none of that. We're reckless. May Allah forgive us. A lot of us are reckless. And the problem is we think, especially Philly, we think reckless is decent. Salam alaikum. We think being reckless is something to, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing to do. So the sisters, a lot of the sisters think being reckless with the way they talk, they think that's decent. They think that's something like, you know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be reckless with your, like you're supposed to talk like that. And I stopped there. The brothers the same way. We think being reckless and a lack of carrying ourselves like good behaving Muslims, we think that that is the thing to do, which is backwards. And if we don't talk about it, and if we don't correct each other, then it'll keep going like that, and we'll pass it on to our kids and the next generation and the next generation. And that's not Islamically sound. Tayyib. So he says that the person who is mentioning the people of knowledge, they are not on the correct path. Tayyib. Listen to this one. All of these are narrations from the Salaf, right? And it shows you the mentality. These are not necessarily hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but it shows you the mentality of that they had when it came to respecting people with knowledge. It says, "Man adha al-ulama bilisanihi ibtalahu Allahu bisu al-khatima." He said, whoever harms a person of knowledge by speaking about him, Allah will test that person who said that with a bad ending in life. Right? It says, Qala ibn Asakir rahimahullah, he said, Kullu man atlaqa lisanahu fil ulama bithalbi balahu Allahu qabla mawtihi bi mawt al-qalb. He said that every person who speaks, a scholar, he says here how? By mentioning their faults, by mentioning their mistakes. Every person he does it, he says that Allah will test that person, the person who said it, Allah will test them with the death of their heart before they die. The heart will be dead of that person before they die. That's how they looked at it when it comes to people of knowledge. Respect. Don't say nothing. Don't say that. I seen brothers. Yesterday he was a sheikh. The next day they just call him by his first name. Let's just say he was dead wrong in what he said. He made a mistake. He's wrong. He's human. He's wrong. That's argument's sake. He's wrong. They'll take and remove. He's not even a sheikh no more. Yesterday was Sheikh Abdurrahman. What? He did, huh? Tomorrow, Abdurrahman said. Who's Abdurrahman? Abdurrahman, the one who was, they don't even want to say sheikh no more. Which shows the ignorance. The ulama Ahl Sunnah, even the scholars of Islam recognize that the people of innovation have scholars amongst them. Ahl Sunnah recognize that. Listen, it's people who are practicing Islam incorrectly. And guess what? Those people are on the same three levels that Ahl Sunnah are on. You have the general people. They wrong, but they just general people. Then you have a higher level of people of them, they're wrong. But these are tulab al-ilm. You go talking to them, they wrap you up real quick. You don't know what you got yourself into. You go there trying to argue and you talk, but they know they stuff. Are they wrong? Yes, it's incorrect, but they know it well. Right? End up talking to a regular Muslim who doesn't know very much. Right? We get into these internet arguments, and then they put something out there, they're a little more educated. They're on a higher tier, even though it might be bid'ah. It might not be correct. And then you have from them, that same group, scholars of Ahl Bid'ah. And they have books that they wrote, and they have reference books that they wrote. We turn around, a person making mistakes, he's no longer a sheikh. Ignorant in manners, ignorant in manners and in knowledge. That's what that is. Ignorance when it comes to manners and how to deal with people of knowledge, and ignorance in knowledge. I've seen people who, even though they're wrong, the behavior of the scholars, you don't see them behaving like that. And that's not what I've seen personally. Allah alam. Tayyib. He says, whoever loves to speak about I forgot the term, man. What's the word? What we say? You did what to my honor? Slandered my honor or something? All right. Your reputation. Whoever, it says here, من كان عنده محبة للحديث في الأعراض الناس فليصرفها في ذكر الله. Whoever loves to talk about people, then what they should do is turn that energy around and make dhikr instead of talking about people, which we have a serious problem with. You know, we grew up sitting around on the steps. That's part of the joint. You sit there, and as people walk by, you talk about them. You know what I'm saying? That's part of it. That's easy. People ride by, they walk by. If they trip, we laughing. Don't just trip by accident. You know, somebody walking down the street, they just trip and stumble over something, and we laugh, right? Am I tripping or nah? That's how we was raised. Somebody fall, don't just slip and fall for nothing. That's like a bid. And now we got cameras, we videotaping it. That's what we come up on. So we're used to somebody falling, making mistakes, somebody, and we laugh at them. That's what we used to. So turn it around. A lot of us bought that and think it's part of the deen. You make a mistake, we can call them a name now. We can say this about them. We got free reign on them. They did it publicly. We could say it publicly? Yeah, bet. He said it publicly, we could say it publicly. A lot of us thrive off of that. He said a person who loves to do that, they should turn around and should make dhikr. Instead of talking about the person, make remembrance of Allah. It's reward in that, and you could be gaining sin talking about the person. And he said, Qala ibn Aun, rahimahullah. He said, Qala ibn Aun, rahimahullah, dhikrullah dawa wa dhikrul nas da. Dhikrullah dawa wa dhikrul nas da. He said that the cure is in making dhikr of Allah. And the poison of the disease is in speaking about people. And that's general. Imagine speaking about a person who's carrying the knowledge of deen. Now, this chapter just shows the mentality that they held when it came to respecting people who have knowledge of Islam. All we got to do is look at ourselves and how do we equate to that. Tayyib. The next section is ihtiram al-aqran, respecting the aqran, which are, we say, your contemporary, which is what? What is a contemporary? Let's say your classmate. Classmate don't necessarily mean y'all were in the same class, but let's just say y'all were all studying Islam. Y'all might not be on the same level, but in the same era, the same time frame, y'all was all studying. We might not be on the same level though. You know what I'm saying? They could be contemporaries, but he's way more knowledgeable than he is. And there's everything in between. It's a bunch of brothers from Philly that was all in Mecca and Medina at the same time. Contemporaries. Contemporaries. Everybody's not on the same level. Alhamdulillah. Right? But it was a bunch of people there at the same time doing the same thing. Al-Aqran. Some people were closer than others. We were in Mecca, it was brothers in Medina. The people in Mecca, right? It was another whole group of people that were there that are not from Philly. Right? We're all there at the same time. Same thing in Medina. Right? Tayyib. Respect for those people. Respect for, what are we going to use, classmate? The people in the same era as you when it comes, your colleague when it comes to learning. Tayyib. This first part is important. He says, Atallahu man sha'a min khalqihi qudrat wal mawahib. Allah gives who he ever chooses, who he chooses to. Allah gives certain people abilities and gifts. It's from Allah. Like what? It says, kal hifz, like memorizing, wal fahm, and understanding, wa tasnif, and the ability to write, the ability to author. Tasnif is to author something, right? Everybody with me? وَالرِّضَى الْعَبْدِ بِمَا قَسَمَهُ اللَّهُ مِنْ تَحْقِيقِ الرُّكْنِ الْإِيمَانِ بِالْقَدْرِ أَحَقَّ النَّاسِ بِذَلِكَ هُمْ أَهْلُ الْعِلْمِ. So number one, some people Allah raised and he gave them gifts, like memorizing. Some people are able to memorize faster than others. And what does this look? Why is this even a thing? It's a thing because we all studying together. We all trying to memorize 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. And somebody is just is way above us. We only doing 3 hadith a day. He does 10. In the same sitting, we can only do 3. Some of us barely got the 3 now. He's able to do 10. Right? We barely understand what's being said. He understands everything. That can form what? Jealousy, envy, hatred. How did he get that? Qadr Allah, mashallah. Our approach is supposed to be mashallah. Allah blessed him. Let me benefit from him. Allah blessed him. Make dua for him. No doubt. As opposed to letting the shaitan get to you, make dua for him. Right? I remember Mufti, when he went to Medina, right? He was, you know, you go to Mecca, Medina, it's a 2-year language program. All of us go through the language program. Everybody goes to the language program. Mufti, mashallah, he comes there and he skips the language program, goes right to the college. Brothers is mad. Brothers is upset. Oh, you can go to the language program. He doesn't need to go to the language program. Like, he doesn't have a need. He didn't have a need to go to the language program. We had a need. I needed to go. We all needed to go. He didn't need to go, so he skipped it. People had a problem with that. What's the problem with him skipping the language program? He doesn't need it. He's been studying already for years before that. Why would you hold him to what you are? You understand what I'm saying? We all here at the same time, but we're not the same. You with me? Tayyib, he says the person should be pleased with that. That's from being pleased with Allah's qadr. That you see that in a person, you say, mashallah, tabarakallah. Being pleased with that and being okay with some people are better than you, that's from the qadr of Allah. Being pleased with Allah's decree. That's what Allah decreed for the person to have, and he didn't decree for me to have that right now. He said, and if anybody should be okay with that, it should be the people of knowledge. People who now have knowledge to ulama should not be jealous of one another. Tayyib. He says after that, it says, وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ يُعَظِّمُ أَحَدُهُمْ قَرِينَهُ وَيُجِلَّهُ مَعَ السَّلَامَةِ قَلْبِهِ لَهُ. He said the Salaf used to respect their colleagues, contemporaries, right? And at the same time, they wouldn't have any hatred in their heart for the person. At the same time, they wouldn't have any hatred in their heart. He says, وَالثَّنَاءُ عَلَيْهِ فِي غَيْبَتِهِ. And they would speak good about him even when they weren't in front of him. Even when they weren't in front of him. I don't have to wait till the brother gets in front of me to speak good about it. I saw him do it. I know. I've seen him in action. I can speak and say, this brother's a serious brother. This brother's a serious student, man. He wasn't playing. You feel me? He said, and speaking good about them when they're not there. Then he brings a story of Ibn Kathir wa Ibn Qayyim rahimahumullah. Ibn Kathir and Ibn Qayyim. Ibn Kathir is famous for what? Tafsir Ibn Kathir. And Ibn Qayyim is famous for heart books. Let's leave it like that. Heart books. Good. Books about the heart. He's famous for a lot of, let's just say books about the heart. Kilahuma qarinan. They were people, Ibn Kathir and Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, they were people who were considered to be contemporaries or colleagues. Right? Fil ilm, when it came to knowledge. Both of them were students of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Tayyib. He says, Ilahuma yuhibbul akhar, and they loved one another. And Ibn Qayyim has his reputation in Islam is, right, Ibn Kathir is the same way, and they love one another. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he spoke about Ibn Qayyim, and he says that لما عاد الشيخ تقي الدين ابن تيمية من الديار المصرية. He said when Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah came back, now he's telling a story about his colleague. Everybody knows Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah's position, and now he's telling a story about Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, which is he's going to do what? He's going to praise Ibn Qayyim. He's going to praise him in the statement that he says, right? He says when Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah came back, he said in the year 712 Hijri, he says, لازمه إلى أن مات الشيخ. He said Ibn Qayyim, once Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah came back, Ibn Qayyim stayed with him. He stayed with him until Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah died. Now, stayed with him might mean, what do you understand from that? Huh? Follow him everywhere he went.
He went to stay with him in jail. I mean, he stayed with him 24/7.
So when you hear stayed with him, because in Arabic the word means lazamahu, means something when it comes to the circles of knowledge and students of knowledge. That's what I want to get to. Yes. You with me? He said, lazamahu. I'm saying stayed with him. Well, what does that mean? That means that he's constantly benefiting from the Sheikh all the way until he died. It doesn't necessarily mean he lived with him. He could have, he maybe didn't. But what he did do was from that year until the death of Sheikh Islam Taymiyyah, he was up under him, benefiting from him, learning from him, right? He said about Ibn Qayyim, فَأَخَذَ عَنْهُ عِلْمًا جَمًّا. He says, so he took a lot of knowledge from Ibn Taymiyyah. Who took a lot of knowledge? Ibn Qayyim. Ibn Kathir is telling us what Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah did. He took a lot of knowledge from Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. It says, فَصَارَ فَرِيدًا فِي بَابِهِ فِي فُنُونٍ كَثِيرًا. It says, so he became Ibn Qayyim. From what he did, it says he became distinguished in every science that he took from him. He's a standout now. That's how much he benefited from Ibn Taymiyyah. He's able to say that with nothing in his heart about a person who they were there together, contemporaries, learning from the same sheikh, but he's still able to say, listen, what he did, he became distinguished in the things that he took and those different sciences that he took from Shaykh al-Islam, that he learned from Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. He says, مع كثرة الطلب ليلا ونهارا, with the fact that he was constantly learning day and night. Day and night. He says, وكثرة الصلاة, and praying a lot and making a lot of dua, right? It says, وكان حسن القراءة والخلق. Of course, good adab, good behavior, good manners, right? And then he praised him. He said, لا يحسد أحد. He didn't envy anybody. He gave him all these praises. And then he said at the end, وكنت من أصحاب الناس له. أصحاب الناس له. He said, and I was one of the closest people to him. Right? وأحب الناس إليه. And I was one of the most beloved people to him also. This is about a contemporary, which means, like in the beginning, just because we out there doing the same thing doesn't mean necessarily we're on the same level, and it doesn't necessarily mean, unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily mean we want to see each other do good. It doesn't mean necessarily. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But the shaitan is real, and he could come between the believers. And this is just an example to show the fact that he's able to say something good about him and have nothing in his heart, which, may Allah forgive us, is difficult for a lot of us, because we don't want anybody to have an upper edge on us, right? I can't do that. So therefore, like we won't a lot of us, certain classes we won't do together. Why? Because in our language, I'm gonna be exposed. I'm gonna get exposed for what I don't know, and I don't want people to know what I don't know. So we'll hold ourselves back from learning out of fear of people figuring out our reality, that I really don't know that much. But now everybody knows. I put it like this. Can you imagine being in the environment, right? It's all of us in class together. We have to take tests. We come to class, teacher open the books, everybody got their books. Daya. Read. If he reads, there's a lot of things that can happen. Maybe his reading is not good. Maybe he's not prepared for class. Maybe he doesn't have his book. Maybe he reads slow. Maybe he gets nervous when he got to read out loud. Right? And all of us get to see that. Right? Everybody with me? Tayyip, you call on him, read, reading too slow. Tayyip, good. Stop right there, it's cool. Teacher might tell you, stop right there, you're reading too slow. Men yaqra, who gonna read? Call on somebody else, read. All of us get to see this happening over years, right? You know what that does inside of that type of circle? Everybody know who's who. We all know who's who. And then when he gets better, we all see him get better. And we all see you you used to be at the top, but you started to decline. We watching it go down in front of all of us, so there's no faking it. The only time you can fake it When you leave that environment, you go back to wherever you're from, and nobody saw that. The people who you go to didn't see that. So they don't know what happened in the class, right? And that's why I always tell the brothers, you're always supposed to read before class. You don't never go to class on zero. You haven't read anything that y'all about to cover. What if you have to read? One time I had to read. The teacher Sheikh called on me. I had to read. I didn't think he was going to call on me anyway, but because he usually have a designated reader. This day he just decides to call on me. I definitely wasn't ready that day. I read the title wrong. Everybody was laughing. I said, dang, I ain't even understand the word. I just started reading. The word, I said, dang, that's crazy. Right? Being prepared. When it's all over, when it's all said and done at the end of the semester, test time. And even it's a midterm too. Midterm. Tests. With the midterm and the final exam, right? Even in between that, research paper. What's your topic? Today we taking the topics. What's your topic? I'm not ready. Sifr, 0. What's your topic? You ain't ready? 0. We all watching. Dad, what's your topic? What's that? What does that mean? How you gonna explain that? What's the? We get to see all that from each other. You imagine that environment, right? Number one, it does a lot of things. Everybody knows, we all know who's who. So if I'm weak, I know who to go to benefit from in my class. And the people who are weaker than me, they're going to come to me. But I know I need to go to him because he's stronger than me. He's the best in the class. I don't know why y'all asking me when everybody need to go to him. And if you're paying attention, everybody in the class everybody knows who's who. Right? Everybody with me? It's intense. But it's benefit. It's benefit in it because you get to learn who's who. So we don't have the problems that we be having. Part of our problem is we don't know who knows what from the people we see all the time in the masjid. We just assume people know based on our own gauge that we make up. This brother been coming around a long time. He probably knows. She been coming around. She been Muslim a long time, so I know she know. Which she might know and she might not know. But usually a gauge like that is the type of gauge that we'll use. Tayyib. And at the end of when it's all said and done, y'all, they plaster it, just like them posters on the wall, they plaster the grades on the wall with your name, your whole name, your middle name and all that. And the country you from and the grades you got in the hallway. Not just for your class to see. Everybody walking through the joint, look up there. Yeah. So, you know what it is. Tayyib. Tayyib. He said here, Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, he said about Abdullah bin Muhammad al-Maqdisi rahimahullah, and Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, he's speaking about a person who was considered to be his colleague also. Imam al-Dhahabi said about him, huwa mimman uhibbuhu fillah. He's from the people that I love for Allah's sake. Right? It's easy, y'all. It's very, very easy to be jealous about a person who is excelling right in front of you. And you're not excelling as fast as they are. If your heart is not right and you're not sincere, it's very easy to be jealous of a person. Very easy. And we hope and we pray that Allah protects our hearts from that. But it's a real thing. I mean, it's a real thing. And that's why Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah, if I'm not mistaken, he has a book called Talbis Iblis, The Deceptions of the Shaitan. It's a thick book. And in the book, it's a section about the scholars being jealous of one another. It's real. Right? And if those are people of knowledge that it's possible to happen, and people under them, of course it's possible to happen. Tayyib. He says in the last point in this section, he says, Al-intifa'u bil-aqran min rujhan al-aql. He said, benefiting from your colleague it shows, if you're able to benefit from your colleague, it shows the level of your, I forgot the word. No, it shows that you have a head on your shoulders, for lack of better words. Not integrity necessarily, but we say you smart. You smart. That you have high IQ, man. You just benefit. You don't just benefit. You able to, because some of us can't benefit from people right next to us. May Allah forgive us. Some of us are not allowed. We don't allow ourselves to benefit from people right there. I'm not letting them know. I'd rather go to somebody. I'd rather go to somebody I don't know than to take the knowledge and the information from a person right there. Right? But he said it's from a person with high intellect to show that they're able to benefit from a person that's their contemporary. He says, number one, وَهُوَ مِنْ أَسْبَابِ النُّبُوغ. This is how a person elevates themselves when it comes to knowledge, by benefiting from the people that are right there, right on the same, during the same time that you benefit. And I'm sure I benefited from a lot of the brothers that I study with. Sometimes you're just not thinking about what they're thinking about. We human. You were not even thinking on that, or you look at their habits, right? And you know everybody, if you're honest with yourself, you know, everybody knows, you know where you're weak, where you're not strong at, right? I know me. I know my weak points. So I can look at a person and say, Dad, I know I'm weak in that, but you do good in that. That's crazy, because that joint is difficult for me. So if something's difficult for me and I see somebody else doing it, that stands out to me, because I know I'm weak in that place. So when somebody else does it well, you know what I'm saying, it stands out to me. Everybody is the same way. It's about, the thing is, are you going to allow yourself to benefit from that person? Because some of us, we might not allow ourselves to benefit based on how close they are to us. The fact that we studying together, I don't want you to be able to tell me anything. Wow, we in here together. If we in here together, that means what? We learning together. If we're learning together, that means we on the same level. We both don't know, right? If we both don't know, how you think you get to tell me something? How you telling me you in here with me? It don't mean, right? That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that the person sitting next, that doesn't mean, yes, we're on the same level contemporary. That doesn't mean we're on the same level. I was there in Mecca at the same time. In Medina, Sheikh Tahir was there. We there at the same time, but it ain't the same. I didn't write I didn't do a master's and a doctorate. Mufti was there. I didn't do a master's. Farouk was there. Post-doctorate. It's not the same thing. And I don't know if we understand what it means. Let me show you what a doctorate a master's looks like. Where? This one? This one not big enough. Maybe this one? A big joint like this. To do your master's, you have to compile and write a thesis paper. Big like this. First one I saw was when Sheikh Tahir did two of these. He did two of these. It was 2 books like this. So we know what a master's. This is a master's that crazy people, all of the ulama that teach that we talking about, they all have masters and doctorates. Name them, they have masters and doctorate degrees. Somebody turns around and tells us, of people who don't respect education in the first place, for the most part, they tell us a master's degree doesn't mean anything. And we take it. We crazy enough to take that and believe them. But all the scholars you quoting on the front of their book, they can't teach, at least in Saudi Arabia, they can't teach without a master's degree, or a doctorate, if I'm not mistaken. Man, you just get up there and start teaching. You got to go, right? 2 of these, y'all, big Jones. 2 of them. You know how it goes? I'm going to show you how it go right now. This is the master's. This is for the master's. It's not even a doctorate. This is what I saw. There's a panel of scholars sitting there. They said, open the book that you did. This is your book, right? This is your research. Cool. Open to page 3. The 3rd line from the bottom. Read that. Explain that. What do you mean by that? You see how big this book is? 2 volumes, not 1. Then they're going to argue. That doesn't mean that. Back and forth. Go to page 262. Second line from the top. 6th line, counting down lines. Iqra, read that. One sheikh said he said, that's the Aqidah Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah right there? He said, yeah. He said, la. He said, no, that's not the Aqidah Ahl Sunnah. He said, yes, it is. Then he started explaining why it is. Some masters. This ain't no light, this is not a light task. 2 books like this, you got to argue what you wrote, that's what you did? Yeah. Explain that to us now. Why you use harf ba instead of fi? And you got to go through it. That's the process. If you would see that, you respect people a little more. That's just the master's. That's not the doctorate. I'm sorry, yes. Everybody clear? Fuck them. Yeah, that's for the master's thesis. When you present your master's after you done did maybe 3 or 4 years gathering it. 2, 3, 4 years gathering it, right? Then they're going to test you. You wrote this? You put this together? This you? Let's see. Go to volume 2. I ain't put volume 2 up. No, this is to attain the master's degree. If you want to attain, that's what you got. That's the process you have to go through. We skipped everything to get there. We didn't even go through to get there. To get there, you had to have high enough grades in the bachelor's program to even be accepted. If your grade's not high enough in the bachelor's program, you can't get in anyway. Man, masters don't mean nothing. Yeah, you probably couldn't get in if you paid them. For real, for real. Allah, I didn't get to see the doctorate. Yes. Same thing. Well, we're people generally, not all of us. A lot of us don't respect knowledge, just education in general, which we need to change. That's something we need to change. It's not cool. It's not cool not to respect being educated. The culture made that cool. But when the culture goes against Quran Sunnah, we leave the culture and we practice Quran Sunnah. We got to break it. But we got to recognize it's a problem first. You can't break it. If you don't think it's a problem, you're never going to fix the problem. We don't see it to be a problem. First brother to tell me, never mind, that's another joke. Anyway, never mind. He wasn't from Philly, and I didn't see something to be a problem until he told me. He said, what's up with y'all brothers from Philly? I said, what you mean? He said, why y'all so hard? I said, what you mean? Y'all don't smile at people. Smile for what? That's what I said to him. I said, smile for what? He said, you crazy. I said, what you mean? Smile on your brother's face is sadaqah, the hadith. I know. So why y'all don't smile at people? Smile for what? Don't know it's a problem not smiling at your brothers and sisters. Know the hadith, but don't know how to do it. Refuse. He said, listen, y'all will shake, it'll be a group of brothers. It's 5 brothers. Y'all will walk up and shake 4 brothers' hands, and the last brother, since y'all don't know him, y'all will do like this to him and walk off. Turn your back to him. I said, nah, man, ain't nobody doing that. That's what I told him. I said, no, ain't nobody doing that. He said, yes, y'all do. Y'all do it all the time. That's what he said. He wasn't from Philly. I sat in front of the masjid like 2 days later and watched. Everybody was doing it. Don't even realize it. We know 4 people out of the group. The 5th person we don't know. If we shake 4 people's hand, the 5th person, we give him one of these joints. We got to show something that I'm not really, me and you not. We have to show something. We Muslim. If we was in the street, mate, we Muslim. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't know it's a problem, it's difficult to fix. May Allah forgive us. There was people in my class, I knew they was sharper than me. And I'm going to ask him the question because I know I'm drowning, right? I don't even understand this joint. I need to talk to somebody. He's in my class. He's better. He's stronger than me, period. And then there was people in my class who was a little weaker than me. Everybody knows who's who, but everybody respected each other, though. Mm. Give him salams. That, what's that? What you mean? Okay. Mm. Ah, yeah. Nah, that could be a cultural thing. He touched something, and he's not gonna touch your hand with it. You don't know he touched nothing. You don't know he touched something, but he knows he touched something. He's not gonna put his hand in your hand knowing he just touched something that's not clean. That might not be clean. Some of that stuff is cultural. No offense to you, but I only know that just from living around them for an amount of time and seeing people from different countries. They have different little things that they do based on where they come from, and a lot of times it's out of respect. We might understand it as disrespect. Yeah, you take it as disrespect. If he did that to me, I understand he must have touched something when he was in there. He don't want to put it on my hand. I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? But that comes from being around them. If you've never been around them, you might take it like you said. Like, what's that about? Why wouldn't he shake my hand? He must not like black. So, you know, we going right there. He must not like black people. He ain't gonna shake my hand. Allah Musta'an. That could be a cultural thing that they're not that I'm doing, that they're doing, not deen. That thing is not necessarily deen. I don't know if you ever seen people when they come in the masjid, right? Say, for example, the spot is over here on Jummah, and he comes in on this side. Some people, when they walk through the rink, they walk straight up, like regular walking. And some people, when they walk through the rink, they crouch down and do, right? That's a cultural thing. Nothing says you got to crouch down when you walk, but out of respect, you're watching the person give the khutbah. I'm late. I'm going to walk in front of everybody. Let me at least duck down, and they stick their hand out like this, like, yo, my bad. It's almost like saying sorry and excuse me without saying it. There's no hadith that I know of that says you have to do that, but that's like a cultural thing out of respect that people do. Tayyib. The last statement is the statement of Shamsuddin As-Sakhawi rahimahullah. He said, Al-mar'u la yanbul hatta ya'khudh amman fawqahu wa mithlahu wa dunahu. He said, a person will not reach that high level of understanding until they're able to take knowledge from people who are above them in knowledge. People who are on the same level as them in knowledge, and people who have less knowledge than them. Person won't really excel until you can take your knowledge from people who have less knowledge than you. Yeah, they don't know as much as you, but you might still be able to benefit from them. Yeah, y'all in the same class, y'all on the same level, but you still might be able to benefit something from them. And of course, most of us, we go to the people who are above us in knowledge, and we could stop there, inshallah, so we could pray. Inshallah, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.